I recall last week I asked you a question about predisposition, things that people are predisposed to, and this whole idea of health, right? I think we were talking about like diabetes. Sometimes we hear the stats that 60% of African Americans or 70% of African Americans are more likely to have diabetes. But when you go back into the topic of the narrative, but you look around the community and you see the different eating options that are available to you. You can go to you can see certain restaurants, certain types of food, and automatically assume and get very close as to who lives in that community. And vice versa, you can look for the Whole Foods and know who lives in that community. But then when you go and read the statistics, you realize, okay, this situation doesn't affect these people. And what's the link here? Because we always talk about health. We talk about lifestyle, food choices. So we know what's good and we know what's bad. So we can see how the narrative plays. You want to go to a black neighborhood, you're going to see what? Liquor stores and churches. We know that to be true. And then what do we see in physical form? Liquor store, churches, decadence. So we know the answer. We know the answer. We know how this is going to play out. So the question is, how do we take control of our narrative to rewrite and to empower ourselves once again? Because, you're going to answer that for me.
No, well, I think one thing you said in the conversation we had, I think last week, and you could touch on it a little bit more about like the 99-cent store and giving like produce and stuff, because we're like, in the communities, all we're eating is hot Cheetos and so forth and so on. Our children don't eat that stuff. We need to have more access because we're food deserts. So yes, but narrative would say, and as you said earlier, even when they have access to it, because you said something, I can't remember all the details. Do you remember what I'm talking about when you were talking about how the government or there was like some type of subsidies that were put in place where they were getting fresh produce?
Yes. So what they found is in some of these food deserts is that the certain foods, fruits, and vegetables is not that people didn't have access to it, is that given the alternative to other things available, they wouldn't buy it. So certain cities, they gave subsidies to like the dollar store. So now when you go to a dollar store, what they realize is these dollar stores that people, when you go in there, you'll see their food section is all non-perishable items, because that's where a lot of people in the community were coming to buy their food. Things in cans, things in bags, instant mashed potatoes, things of that nature. They wouldn't buy the real potato. They'll do the instant version. So that's why when you put that up against the grocery store, then the grocery store is not making money because the grocery stores are buying everything is fresh. So what they did was they said, okay, let's give subsidies to these dollar stores to bring fresh fruits and vegetables in. I mean, literally for free. The dollar stores didn't have to pay for it. They're putting in these centers because they know this is where the community is shopping. Long story short, community members still weren't buying the foods. They would still go get the processed food. They would still eat what has been their palates have been accustomed to. And then another reason is that when you go to certain farmers markets, certain establishments, you can see star fruit, like fruits and things that if you weren't grown accustomed to or you weren't educated about, you wouldn't really know what to do with it. So there's an educational piece that goes into it. So if I tell somebody, do you like hummus? They may say, yeah. But then I can also say, you like chickpeas? They're like, what's that? They don't even know. They may not know that the chickpea is what is the main ingredient to create the hummus. So you have to show them and educate them how the different forms of how this food can be utilized. And that will go a long way in kind of helping people to understand better lifestyle, better choices, so that we're not so reactive in nature that we tend to make those big jumps or those big strides after we hit calamity, after we hit some type of traumatic experience, after we've been diagnosed with this. Now we have to live a vegetarian life. After we've gone through this where we have maybe colon cancer or this and this. No, now the doctor says, well, you need to eat green leafy vegetables. You need to eat more iron in order to live. But we can make these decisions now before it gets to that point. And that's the 100%. Thing that we want to kind of focus on as the Ashan Foundation is. This is why we've done so much work with BTE. We want to do this here stateside as well, is how can we create environments, farming, how can we get our young folks passionate about the earth? Not just protecting the earth, but also understanding what comes out. Because when we go back to the garden, it says that Adam and Eve had everything they needed. They had everything. Everything they needed was right there. And as we can see, if you go to a desert land or whatever, you're going to see something growing off the ground. whether it's grass, whether it's weeds, whether it's brush. That's how the earth is designed. So we as people need to understand that the earth is plentiful. God created it a certain way, and we need to understand what it is we need to do, and how we need to survive and coexist on this wonderful planet that we live on.